Traders Cousin Vinny coming to you on Sunday, March the 9th from theclosingprint.com with a quick market read and watch list for the week. Focusing on the things that are bullish in the market currently. The trend obviously is up on all the indices and the volatility is less than 21. The VIX also bearish indicators, breadth, although positive, is reaching a maximum currently that we've seen in the past where stocks get overbought, extended, and exhaustion sets in and we see a pullback. Sentiment is overly bullish, and seasonality wise we could see a pullback currently. Valuations are high. Bonds, we're watching TLT and REITs and builders, as the TNX did see a bounce last week, looking at all the sectors being green except for XLU, which is pulled back below its 20-period moving average. We're watching the banking sector, which saw strength last week. We pointed that out on our scans, and DBV, the carry trade, saw a bearish engulfing on Friday. The Fed is still in taper mode, and we're watching these sectors here going into the week. The components that we might see some trading on. We noted the truckers started on Wednesday showing up on the Bollinger Band TTM Keltner channel scan, and we had some nice trades there on some of those stocks. Mikey's looking at a few things. He pointed out he liked Algen, ALGN from the scan this weekend, HTLD, a trucker, and of course a bank, Ozark, one of the regionals. Starting with the carry trade, we can see that bearish engulfing that we put in on Friday. We have this descending trend that we've seen since the spring of 2013. We have support down here and a double bottom, and higher up here at this upper trend line that we broke above last week. Overall, if you're bullish stocks, you want to see the carry trade moving higher, and if you're bearish, you want to see the reverse. You want to see DBV move lower. We're very interested in the 10-year yield, which saw a bounce up to the 50-period moving average and the 50% retracement before we saw sellers come in and push this back down to the 50-period closing there. So if you are bullish REITs and bonds and builders, you want to see TNX retrace here this week and possibly take out this lower, this higher low that we saw on Monday. We can look at those charts down here. These are both the ITB and the XHB, the builders, along with REITs, which have been going sideways and just starting to break a trend down here. But note utilities, the dividend paying utility stocks that are part of this index came right down to this support level, this triple top breakout, and we saw buyers step in and push this back up. So we want to keep an eye on XLU this week, as well as TNX, the 10-year yield, and bonds. The Russell recovered nicely on Tuesday after that move lower down to the 10-period EMA, and then we see a flag now off of this upper trend line level where we have pulled back for the mid part of the week, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. RSI is bouncing off of 70, and we could see some weakness in the coming week. But for the most part, the Russell is pretty strong. The S&P 500 looked to be very strong into the week. After the move lower down to the 10-period EMA, we saw buyers step in. We had a really nice candle on Tuesday, and then we flagged higher Wednesday, Thursday, Friday with a little bit of a doji, long-legged doji on Friday. We have a support level here, this Kirby shelf, and for the most part, this index looks pretty bullish. NYMO is pulling back from a sell zone, and we see bullish percent at 73%. We see MACD looks like it's exhausting itself, but I don't want to read into this. This could continue to move higher. And of course, the number of stocks trading above the 50-period moving average is 81.4. The comp is doing quite well, just shy of a bearish engulfing candle itself. We did see a move down to the 10-period MA and a emergence of buyers to push this back up. But this is something that we want to keep an eye on going into the week as well, as the bullish percent does look like it's peaking, could be turning. We'll keep an eye on that. NIMO came up to a sell zone and pushed back down. NASI is still charging higher, so we don't have a signal there. MACD, though, does appear to be turning over. Note the histogram. If it reaches the 0 point, this will cross and we will see a bearish divergence there on price. Yukarwitz rightly pointed out that most of the move higher on the comp was due to the XBI, and on the S&P 500 is due to the IBB biotech sectors pushing these indexes higher. So look for weakness in those two sectors, the IBB and the XBI, going into the week for any indications that we might see more weakness on the indexes. Looking at the 9 spider sectors on the S&P, we know that banks showed up in the beginning of the week. We saw a move higher on Bank of America, JP Morgan, Morgan Stanley, Goldman Sachs. So I would look for these to continue the possible move higher, because they were lagging for the better part of 2 months in the beginning of the year when we saw some of the other sectors doing better. We see the industrials charging higher. Some of the stocks that are showing up on the scan this weekend that we'll get to in a second are on the industrials, the materials, healthcare, and financials. So we want to keep an eye on that. So note the bullish crosses of these moving averages. You can pause this and look back at this. Consumer staples as well as cyclicals are getting bullish crosses, and industrials as well. Gold continues to look well with the dollar weakness. We had this double bottom that we saw in late December hold, and we've rallied since then, moving higher on the weekly chart. Note the 382 retracement from this pivot high at 1798.10 down to this low at 1179.40. That the 382 is right here in the 1410 range, right where we had a break above resistance becoming support. We lost in the middle of last year. So we tested that level once, and we look to be charging towards that level again if the dollar continues to be weak. So if you're thinking about trading gold, there were a number of stocks that look good on the mining and gold sectors. Moving over to the S&P 500, the S&P 1500 Composite Index, the index came down to this lower trend line, bounced, and we've seen quite a move over the past 6 weeks. Note previous times on the advanced decline percent of stocks that this large move here and this move is very similar, and what resumed afterwards when stocks became exhausted. We've seen a 6-week move here and approximately a 6-week move here. That would suggest that we are probably near a max. We could move higher, but I'm starting to see shadows here on these candles, and I'm thinking that it's better. It's a bigger possibility that we're going to see move lower than a possibility that we will see people buying up here and continuing to push this index higher. For the short term, I'm thinking the S&P 1500 and the other indices might have seen exhaustion this week, and we could see weakness very shortly. Let's go ahead and take a look at our scan for the week. We did this ahead of time for the 9th. First off, we can see that there is a smaller list of stocks. Now we have 20 stocks versus 60 the week previous on Sunday, which is telling you a number of things. Most notably, obviously there's less stocks squeezing into a TTM. Bollinger Band Keltner squeeze. So you'll see less stocks with low volatility. Most stocks have broken off that were in this scan last week. So let's take a look at some of these sectors. Technology we see a few names in the technology sector showing up: materials, industrials, healthcare, and financials, as well as energy and cyclicals. Remember that we were talking about midweek the trucking sector, which we see two names here. Knight Transportation we didn't see until today, so let's take a look at that. Knight had gotten above on Thursday, broke above this level here and a Kirby level, so this could continue to move higher. Note MACD is turning, and we could see a histogram cross over zero this week. Stochastics is overbought and ATR is dropping. We do have a doji outside of the upper Bollinger Band. Werner did take off on Friday. We pointed that out on the Thursday night scan. We saw a move higher on Friday, and it looks like this is going to continue if MACD does in fact cross, and we see follow through with buyers. Volume was decent, but we are outside the upper Bollinger Band. We are above the Kirby level here, so things look bullish here up to 26.87. It looks like we could test a double top there. If we break above that level, we could see continuation. We see a couple of auto parts names. Note that the auto sector is doing okay. Nice pattern here, breaking above these levels, a Kirby up here, and Bollinger Bands continuing to expand on three really nice pocket pivots. They took out all the red volume that you see all the way to November of last year. It was the last time. And we'll see a MACD cross, which is bullish for the stock. Probably going to see continuation this week. On Quantum Fuel Systems, QTWW. One thing to note on Quantum Fuel Systems, there is 11.37% short. So keep that in mind going into the week as well. Let's take a look at Gentex, GNTX. A name that I looked at last week. We note Bollinger Bands are really narrow. Prices have been moving sideways. We need a catalyst to kick this higher. Perhaps maybe we'll see volume. We have a MACD cross and things are moving more bullish, but we are down below the 50-period moving average. If I were to take this, I'd be putting stops down here below these lows to negate my bullish thoughts on this. If this moves lower and takes out these lows, then this more than likely is going to continue to move lower. But if we take out these highs at 32.18, I would look at this as a long going into the week. We have 32.02, this low here, so that could bring us up and get above these Kirby levels on GNTX. ESRX was a name that we looked at on Thursday's scan. We had a nice move on Thursday morning and Friday. A little bit of a shakeout. If you look at the 60-minute, we gyrated around that level at 78 most of the day and shook out some of these names. I would suspect that this is going to move higher going into the week. Overall, on the daily chart, it still looks pretty bullish to me. I'd be looking for this level up here at 77.50 to hold, and for these highs that we saw on Thursday and Friday to get taken out. MACD did cross, so ESRX still looks good to me. Do note we only have 1.93% short, but that could fuel a move higher if those shorts start to cover. TNP was one of the energy names in the scan, and note that it's holding the 10-period EMA. We had this nice little pullback to the 10, came down and tested the 20-period, the dotted line, the midpoint of the Bollinger Bands. We could see a move higher. We have this huge Kirby bar and MACD to give us a cross. So look for this to take out these highs to continue this bullish trend. Marathon Petroleum we pointed out on Thursday night scan as well. That one's looking pretty good with a triple top here, so we're at decision point. MACD did cross back up to the upside. If you did manage to get into this trade, I look for it to hold this low that we saw on Friday as a stop. NE, Noble Energy, Noble Drilling, we see this flat base here, and we want to take out these highs at 31.92 for a bullish trade into this Kirby here, which could help propel the stock higher into this level and up to the 50 period moving average and through that level as well. Note the 200 period is way up here at 36.50. The fact that we see a lesser amount of stocks showing up on the buy list and the scans is telling you that we probably have reached a level that has seen some exhaustion. So I'm not looking to take any trades on Monday. I'm probably going to wait the day out on Monday and just manage some trades. So I'll more than likely look at Tuesday if we see the number of stocks showing up in the scan again increase. So that's going to do it for me. This is Cousin Vinny coming to you from theclosingprint.com with a look at the week ahead.